This is what he looked like in the 1830s. Most images that you will see of him are images from late in life in the 1860s, when he looked like this. Garrison was from Massachusetts. And he did the equivalent, he did what folks in his day did to get publicity. He founded a newspaper. Today, if you want to get your message out, you make a YouTube video, you tweet, you build a website, you spend a king's ransom on a wedding, and 77 days later you say, he's a bastard, I don't want to live with him anymore. There are all sorts of ways to get attention. In the 1830s, you start a newspaper. That's what Mr. Garrison does. His newspaper is called The Liberator. And this thing comes out on a regular basis, and he talks about slavery as an evil and how it should end. And he and others found an organization, the AASS, the American Anti-Slavery Society. He and others found an organization, the AASS, the American Anti-Slavery Society. And this is what they do. They try to pressure northern governments, the state governments from the north, the U.S. senators from the north, U.S. representatives from the north, influential business folks from the north. They do everything within their power to push politicians to end the spread of slavery, I mean, my goodness, in the nation's capital, in Washington, D.C., there are slavery exists. There are slave auctions within sight of the Capitol and the White House. They push for an end to slavery in the District of Columbia. They say it's an evil. They do everything in their power to push their political agenda. In other words, they lobby. That's what we would say they did today. They lobby. Second thing they do is they hold huge public rallies. They have speakers and meetings and parades. They write books and stories. They put up posters. They do everything they can publicly to point out the rightness of their position. And the third thing they do, and I didn't put this term on the outline, but I want you to know it. The third thing they do is they work very hard to encourage slaves to flee slavery. They work very hard to encourage slaves to flee from slavery. They help to set up a geographic network that allows slaves to do that. A series of safe houses in the Upper South and in the North, so that slaves can get to the only place where freedom is absolutely guaranteed. Where is that place, Amy? The North. But specifically, since there's a law that says, if I'm a slaveholder, if Amy's my slave, and Amy escapes from Kentucky into Ohio, I can still go and get her. So where is, yes, say it again louder. Canada, that's right, Canada, right? Canada of the maple leaf and the maple syrup and the boot, right? That Canada. How many of you all in this room have ever been to Canada? Where'd you go, Robin?
I can't remember.
Oh, were you?
I went through from Detroit.
Oh, from Detroit, okay, just into Windsor, Ontario. Yes. Canada's a cool place, literally. It's a neat place to go, and it's cool, because it's north.
You know what, one thing that I had heard here recently, like those quilt-looking patches on barns, that was known back as a safe place to be.
Yes. Now, what do we call, very good, Adam, what do we call this network of safe houses? The Underground Railroad. That's right. That's a term I want you all to know. Underground Railroad. This was something that the American Anti-Slavery Society helped to set. This is not a formal thing. Now, let me just take a minute here and ask my favorite question that I get to ask once every semester. How many of you all in high school had the history teacher who was the coach? All right. Good history teacher?
Yeah.
Really? Good coach?
Crazy.
Yeah. I had the history teacher who was the coach. Mediocre coach. You know, 8 and 16 every year. Really bad history teacher. The man, I was smarter than the guy was. And I remember distinctly him talking about the Underground Railroad. He had a constant runny nose. Now, before you all think, all right, I don't think it was that kind of constant runny nose. I just think he had allergy issues. So he was always with the nose. And like many of you, he had a verbal tick. Nowadays, the verbal tick is like we went to the store, and candy bars were free. You say like because there's this big empty space in your head, and you want to fill it with something, and so you say like, or you know, or his was and stuff. So we're going to go to the store and stuff. And so it was constantly this, that, or the other and stuff all the time. But I remember him telling us distinctly, this was 1978. So a long time ago, but I can still remember him telling us about the Underground Railroad. And he said the slaves, this man was so stupid. He said the slaves, the female slaves, the young ladies who worked in the houses would steal spoons. And at night they would go into the slave cabins and they were digging tunnels. And they were putting tracks down inside these tunnels, and they were running like coal cars. And that's how they got out. That was the Underground Railroad. It was literally,